thank you very much to Upazi and the organizing committee for inviting me to the panel. If my slides could come up, that would be great. My talk today is split into three sections, one on trade, one on European tastes and preferences for tea, and the new trends that are emerging across Europe, or Kurush, one slide of doom, and then the rest positive opportunity. So starting with the doom, the EU is currently caught between enforcing stricter regulations to uphold sustainability standards while proposing simplification reforms to its corporate social responsibility directives. They're doing this because they want to boost the EU's competitiveness in response to global tariffs, such as Trump's tariff wars. However, the European Union's vision for agriculture and food states that the Commission wants to pursue stronger alignment of production standards, notably on pesticides, with the most hazardous pesticides banned in the EU for health or environmental reasons not being allowed back into the EU through imported products. So this really conflicts with that open trade and competitive objective. But Tea and Herbal Infusions Europe, of which I'm currently the president, is advocating for the tea sector through its direct engagement with the EU Commission's Department for Agriculture, for Health and for Trade. We are part of the Open Trade Coalition, which has called for an open, bold trade policy in the EU to foster growth and innovation and benefit consumers by increasing product choice. Importantly, that coalition calls for trade diversification in sourcing of imports to really help the EU weather and overcome future crises. THIE also engages with CropLife Europe and the European Liaison Committee for Agriculture and agri-food trade on key topics such as pesticide maximum residue levels and import tolerances. Through all these connections, we're advocating for a pragmatic trade policy, particularly with respect to pesticide MRLs. We are calling for a 3-year transition time for neonicotinoids. But it's important to note that the EU and the UK are now discussing an alignment on their phytosanitary frameworks, which may see the UK realign on pesticide MRLs very quickly. This could exacerbate the issues relating to neonicotinoid MRL reductions, which will affect tea coming into the EU and the UK. So both THIE and UKTIA are continuing to advocate for those pragmatic transition times for imported tea. A simplification omnibus, specifically for pesticides, does propose to accelerate the access for biocontrol substances, which could be a real opportunity to drive integrated pest management, with a route for approval for alternative natural controls in the European market. UKTIA members are investing in IPM projects, and we're keen to collaborate on future projects that could help all of us reduce our reliance on synthetic chemicals. So now moving on to taste preferences across Europe. I sort of said this was positive. There's a little bit of gloom, but let's go with it. Tea is particularly popular in Northern Europe, especially in the UK and Ireland, whereas in Spain, Portugal, Greece, Italy, there's much lower tea consumption, typically less than 0.25 kilograms per capita annually. It's clear from this graph, which shows per capita consumption in kilos, that coffee dominates across the whole of Europe, with tea and herbals really typically reserved for special occasions or drunk for wellness. However, in terms of cups per day, the UK still drinks over 100 million cups of tea versus 98 million cups of coffee. Herbal and fruit infusions are growing in popularity across the whole of Europe, and they dominate in Germany. In Germany, the average consumer drank 67 litres of tea in 2024, but about 40 litres of that were herbal or fruit infusions, whereas the UK market, close to 85% of tea consumed is Camellia sinensis, black or green tea, with black tea representing 70% of that total market, usually made with tea bags and drunk with milk. To drill down into the UK market, UKTIA runs an annual survey with different age groups and in different regions across the country. Some of the key findings from 2025 are that 98% of people in the UK drink at least 1 cup a day, with over 40% drinking up to 4 cups a day. 4 cups is considered the sweet spot in terms of receiving the optimum health benefits from tea consumption. However, 20% of the UK are champion tea drinkers, and they're consuming up to 8 cups of tea every single day. So we have an opportunity to grow, particularly with those younger consumers. When we ask them where they're drinking their tea, the vast majority of people consume their tea at home. Out-of-home tea consumption is missing the mark for many consumers who firmly believe that the best cup of tea that they drink is the one that they make for themselves, just how they like it. Why would they pay someone else to make it out of home when they get a poor experience? This contrasts with coffee consumption, which is winning out of home in the UK because there's theatre associated with the production of your drink. Where tea is winning back some of that out-of-home audience is with tea lattes, and I'll come back onto this later. Tea scores highly for delivering on both functional and emotional needs. The great news is, first and foremost, people drink tea because they like the taste. But they're drinking it functionally for hydration. They drink it as a pick-me-up, as we've heard earlier, especially first thing in the morning. Breakfast is typically the meal occasion where people drink tea. Again, much more opportunity throughout the day to increase our tea consumption. They also drink tea because it brings them comfort and to be sociable. It's a reason to connect with others. They come together to pause and chat over a cuppa. Just quickly, 76% of people told us that they take milk with their tea, but 27% of those are now taking plant milks instead of dairy. So tea companies really need to think about how their final product tastes with these alternative milks. And there are some bespoke tea brands on the market that are blended to go particularly well with oat milk, with almond milk, etc. The European tea market is projected to grow significantly in the next 10 years, with herbals actually being the fastest growing market sector, driven by health and wellness. But premium blends are transforming the market dynamics. Organic teas are gaining popularity, particularly in Germany, where almost 18% of the tea consumed in 2024 was organic. That's 2 percentage points higher than the previous year. And functional blends, such as those that support sleep, continue to grow. Sustainability is a priority for European consumers, with over 60% preferring fair-sourced teas. And e-commerce and specialty retail are changing how tea is brought, especially in Germany again. E-commerce platforms now offer direct access to organic, fair trade and specialty teas, often coming with detailed product stories. Moving on to emerging trends. Might not be a very exciting one, but here is some growth. The most consistent growth in the tea sector in recent years in the UK has been decaf tea. Since its launch in the early 1990s, decaf has been the only tea segment that has shown growth year on year. And estimates now suggest that decaf has 12% of the market share in the UK. This growth is attributed to the fact that tea is an important part of UK culture. Therefore, consumers have a really good awareness that tea contains caffeine. The quality and the taste of decaf teas has improved. And also, we have an aging population in the UK, and people tend to lower their caffeine consumption as they get older. And this has also contributed to the growth. Decaf sales are much lower in the rest of Europe because coffee culture is stronger. And there's a greater history of consuming herbal infusions, which are naturally caffeine-free. However, the largest growth market for decaf outside of the UK is now Italy. And hey, we have matcha once again. Matcha tea is experiencing a significant surge in popularity across Europe, particularly in the UK and Germany. It's driven by growing consumer focus on health and wellness. In the UK, the matcha market is predicted to expand to 137 million this year, with continued growth fueled by matcha's reputation for high antioxidant content and its perceived benefits for metabolism and mental clarity. In Germany, matcha has been the fastest growing tea segment within the tea category, with consumers drawn to its versatility and premium positioning. The demand for organic and sustainably sourced matcha is also rising, aligning with broader trends in ethical consumption. Younger demographics are embracing matcha, as Kurosh said, in innovative formats such as lattes, smoothies, and desserts. The rise of cafe culture has further propelled matcha into the mainstream menu, while social media influencers continue to amplify its appeal through visually engaging content and health-focused messaging. Its vivid green color makes it the perfect focus for images on Instagram and TikTok. Ready-to-drink matcha beverages and single-serve formats are also gaining traction, offering convenience without compromising on quality. Overall, matcha's fusion of tradition, health benefits, and modern lifestyle compatibility positions it as a standout trend in the evolving tea landscape in Europe. However, the matcha market is currently facing significant turbulence. Japan saw this year's harvest diminished by poor weather conditions, while China, which has ample matcha, is grappling with labor shortages and high demand, and this has also pushed up prices. Sticking with the tea latte theme, spice chai is gaining robust traction in Europe, driven by a blend of cultural nostalgia and wellness. Again, the rise of cafe culture has created a fertile ground for chai lattes and other tea lattes to flourish. Consumers are increasingly seeking comfort, flavorful drinks that offer functional benefits such as anti-inflammatory properties with added ingredients like ginger, turmeric, and cinnamon. Millennials and Gen Z are particularly drawn to spice chai for its warm, aromatic profile and its alignment with the holistic wellness trends. The chai tea latte powder market has seen notable growth, with Europe reporting a 30% increase in popularity over the last 2 years. DIY kits and powdered formats are becoming mainstream in retail, allowing consumers to replicate cafe-style experiences at home. In addition, there is a growing demand for health-conscious variants, low-sugar varieties, organic, plant-based formulations, and this shift links to the trend towards personalization and clean label products. Out of home, the presence of spice chai is ubiquitous in chains like Starbucks, but in the UK, we're seeing a proliferation of specialized out-of-home chains. So there's a company called Chaiwala that now has 90 sites across the UK, out of their total 112 sites globally. So you can see the popularity in the UK market. The fusion of tradition and innovation in chai offerings is reasonably resonating strongly with consumers, positioning spice chai as the dynamic and enduring trend in the European tea market. And lastly, just some other ongoing trends. These include plant-based diets, where tea fits naturally with a vegetarian or eco-friendly diet. Younger consumers want functional benefits, such as gut health that they can get from kombucha or probiotic teas. They're looking for things that enhance their mood, so aptogenic blends with ingredients such as ashwagandha. And then they're also looking for things to help them focus, give them energy, like matcha. Or conversely, they want a blend to help them sleep. So things such as chamomile, lavender, or CBD infusions. Blending tea with these ingredients to support these needs will create market opportunities. The sober curious is still a strong trend in the UK, despite our reputation for spending much time in the pub. And I was pleased to see on social media the other day, one of the university tea societies was advertising a cafe crawl. So where students would have normally gone on a pub crawl, they were going on a cafe crawl around the city of Bath to try teas in different cafes around that city. Industry needs to take opportunities to work with restaurants and bars to develop tea options on their menus. Think about sparkling teas in nice bottles. Think ready to drink in sleek cans, tea-based mocktails, nitro cold brews, or premium brewed teas on tap in pubs and cafes. The next wave will be much more adult-oriented, alcohol-free tea serves. Consumers have high sustainability expectations. They're scrutinizing the packaging that their products come in. They want plastic-free tea bags. They want compostable sachets, refillable loose-leaf jars. Carbon labeling or regenerative sourcing claims could differentiate, but these must avoid greenwashing at all costs. On social media, TikTok-driven interest fuels flavor experimentation. Think seasonal tea flavors, colorful layered iced teas, or glow-in-the-dark galaxy teas. Limited edition drops and influencer collaborations also boost engagement and encourage people to try new things. In the value versus premium paradox, consumers still want everyday affordable teas for at-home consumption, but premium offerings linked to rituals, loose-leaf kits, matcha whisk sets, tea ceremonies, cold brew, and luxury blends are all gaining popularity. Subscription boxes combining value and discovery will appeal to the budget-conscious but curious younger consumer. Interest in authentic and cultural rituals where teas are linked to storytelling around origin, community, and preparation are resonating with the younger consumers, who are looking for identity and expression for the food and drink that they consume. Care is needed here, though, to make sure these stories are authentic and they're to avoid appropriation. Convenience is still high on the consumer priority list. Grab-and-go formats, sachets, dissolvable powders, and single-serve tea shots all can compete with the energy drinks market. Tea risks being seen as old-fashioned if it doesn't evolve with these trends. If ready-to-drink competitors in the energy drinks and the sodas market own that youth convenience space, tea could be sidelined. And greenwashing claims in sustainability will backfire because the younger audiences demand proof. However, tea is perfectly positioned as the future sober-proof, sustainable, functional drink that meets our emotional needs. But the sector must modernize formats, lean into the wellness trend, and embrace fast-moving youth culture to capture the next generation. Thank you.